I wouldn't have been able to find it on a map until years later or have any idea how to get back there. What I do remember was the wide, blue, open sky filled with autumn light, and the sometimes gentle and the sometimes really strong prairie wind blowing across the fields of that countryside church graveyard near Marshall, Minnesota. I was young, only beginning to hold memories that would last longer than just a few days or weeks, but I remember being at my parents' side. I remember large trees towering high above me, faces all around me that I recognized and knew. Some were weeping, some were smiling through tears. My great-grandmother, Lydia Royer, had died, the first death of a family member I can remember. And almost out of an old-time movie, we gathered at this graveside, shoveling in dirt. And I remember perhaps most vividly my grandfather, who had just lost his mother, a veteran, a plumber, hands covered in dirt, tears streaming down his face, saying goodbye. And something happened in that moment as we tried and failed to remember the lyrics to Will the Circle Be Unbroken. It was as if we were listening to the ancestors and letting them lead us, wrapped and cloaked in the air and the breath and their being. And I saw my grandfather's heart just break open without breaking apart, break open without shattering to nothing, because the heart is a field and grief and sadness is a plow that opens it up, watered with tears of memory, of both joy and of pain, and out of that dark, rich soil, something springs up, something green and beautiful, full of grace and hope and laughter and joy and story, like some beautiful spring. And somehow, as tears watered the graveyard dirt, and this child of earth and sky and mystery and God returned to the dust from whence she came, I swear that the holding of hands and the sharing of story and the shedding of tears and the telling of old stories, true and untrue, that began to break hearts open. And the strength of that prairie wind opened that grave, and for a few shining moments, let light shine through in the midst of sadness. And up from that grave, filtered through my grandfather's heart, through his tears and into my own, death came to life again. It was as if we were practicing resurrection. It's as if she had risen from the grave, because in every meaningful way, she did. That's how it tends to happen, doesn't it? We're at some threshold moment, some moment from the world outside as it starts to shift into slow motion, stalled and stilled, as everything within the reach of our heart slows to a halt, and we're living and breathing and moving on a different plane, in different air, the air of grief and of memory, the air of ancestors that is harsh and hard and beautiful and nourishing. I remember when I was growing up in Mankato, spending time at church during the week, as future ministers do. We just hang out at church all the time. It started young. One Tuesday afternoon, I walked into the lobby. I was going to some group, and I looked into the sanctuary. And I saw Joel, our custodian. He had removed the red-colored glass from the eternal flame and had it on a table there. So the eternal flame is what it sounds like. It's a flame, a candle with red glass behind the altar that's lit all the time. And as much as I knew, I assumed it was lit by God or Martin Luther. I wasn't sure, but it was always lit, and it always stayed lit, and it had been lit for generations, somehow magical. Like any good church kid, I thought that was always the way it was, right? But Joel took the candle out of it that was down to a nub, put it on the table, got this other box, took out a brand new candle, put it in the red glass, and I was scandalized. I assumed that it was the Holy Spirit lighting that candle generations ago, but it was Joel at 1:30 on a Tuesday afternoon. And he put the candle in it, he struck the match, he put it back on, and a little bit of my world crumbled. But you know what? It's okay. Because the mystery and the magic and the miracle of all that, life and death and making meaning as we go, the miracle of it is that we've got to light the candles. We've got to light the candles for one another. We need to light the candles of memory and grief and joy to remember those we have loved and lost, and for those who are still living, us. These ancestors live in us, whether we realize it or not, in the way we talk or the phrases we use, the way our nose is shaped or the attunement of our heart, the way we love music or the way we remember cooking from the smells of the kitchen, the way our hearts are tuned toward compassion. We have to light candles for one another, lest we forget all who have come before us, all the strands that make up who we are, all who have lived and died and loved and given their best self to the making and the remaking of this world. We have to light a candle for them, for ourselves, for us all. Not that lighting a candle creates any magic or miracle, but the act of lighting it. The act of coming together to celebrate how the spirit or the soul of a person lives on in 1,000 ways that we can name and sometimes we cannot name. The lighting of the candle creates nothing new but ignites the elements, the spirits, the air that was already right there. All those souls, those saints, those everyday, common, ordinary, fallible human saints, like you and like me. In these days of late autumn, when the air itself holds mystery and wonder, and the bright colors of the land shine forth through the trees and the bushes and the grass as it shifts into different tones, so do our memories in our minds, but mostly memories of the heart, memories in our body, reminds us of what strands are spun and woven within us, spanning generations and story and identity, what makes up the fabric of who we are. Swing low, says the spiritual. Perhaps not for some chariot to come down and pick us up and bring us to somewhere out there, but swing low the threshold, swing low the barriers between the saints of earth and the saints of light, swing low to this plane of life, this level, this ground, swing low down to earth, the memories and feelings and moments of connection with those who have gone before. Swing low, sweet chariot, and stop here. Stay here a while with the saints and all souls that spill right out of that chariot, filling our hearts, our streets, our homes with memory and stories that hold us. Don't send us promises of some other home in the hereafter, but remind us of the home that is here now and the home that is our heart that souls return to. All around us and within us, yet it's only at times we notice. We must light the candles ourselves, to remember that there is mystery and miracle enough right here, that heaven isn't some out there somewhere, but it's right now. And as we call down these ancestors, these ordinary, everyday saints and souls to the hallowed threshold of our hearts, we notice that perhaps they never left. Swing low, sweet chariot, and light our way. May it be so, and amen.